The story opens with Isaac Porter checking his perimeter sensors at his homestead on Dust's Edge, a barely terraformed frontier world where colonists either thrive on solitude or break under it. Isaac's been here 3 years, running a modest agricultural station and preferring the company of his greenhouse plants to people. His sensors detect movement near the eastern ridge, erratic, stumbling, clearly not wildlife. He grabs his medical kit out of habit learned from years as a field medic before retirement and heads out into the dusty twilight. What he finds is an alien woman collapsed against a rock formation, her clothing torn and stained, her long, gracefully curved ears drooping with exhaustion and dehydration. She's Serani, he recognizes, a species known for their strict hierarchical society based on demonstrated aptitude and role fulfillment. She looks up at his approach with silver eyes that hold more resignation than fear, as if she's already accepted whatever comes next. Isaac doesn't waste time with questions. He can see she's hours from death. "Can you walk?" When she shakes her head weakly, he simply lifts her. She's lighter than he expected, and carries her back to his homestead without another word. Isaac sets her up in his small guest room, provides water and simple food, and tends to her injuries with the efficient care of someone who's patched up plenty of wounded soldiers. The woman, she murmurs her name as Thessa during a lucid moment, drifts in and out of consciousness for 2 days. When she finally wakes fully, Isaac is sitting nearby, monitoring her vital signs on a medical scanner. Thessa stares at him with confusion and something that might be suspicion. "Why did you help me? You don't know me, you don't know what I am." Isaac shrugs, adjusting the IV drip he's rigged from veterinary supplies. "You were dying. I had the means to prevent that. Didn't seem like it needed more justification than that. I am nothing, rejected by my people, failed the aptitude trials. I hold no rank, no purpose, no value to your society or mine." Her voice carries the flat affect of someone reciting a verdict they've internalized. "My people decided I was worthless. Why would you decide differently?" Isaac meets her eyes directly. "Because your people sound like they have a pretty limited definition of worth, and I stopped letting other people's opinions define my decisions about 3 years ago when I moved out here." He stands to adjust the window shade. "You're welcome to stay until you're healed. After that, you're welcome to stay longer if you want. I've got more space than I need, and the work's easier with 2 people." Over the following weeks, Thessa slowly recovers physically, but emotionally she remains distant, expecting rejection or conditional kindness. Isaac simply continues treating her as a person, assigning her light tasks around the homestead as she heals, sharing meals without interrogating her about her past, teaching her about the agricultural systems he maintains. He notices things. She has an intuitive understanding of plant growth patterns that takes him hours of analysis to achieve. She can diagnose equipment problems by listening to subtle changes in mechanical rhythm that his sensors miss. She has a gift for weather prediction that proves uncannily accurate, allowing them to protect crops from sudden atmospheric shifts. When he comments on these abilities, Thessa becomes defensive. "These skills are worthless to my people. The Serani value strategic thinking, military prowess, technological innovation. I showed aptitude in observation, pattern recognition, intuitive understanding. None of these fit their defined categories. I was tested, evaluated, and found lacking." Isaac stops his work and looks at her seriously. "Thessa, you just predicted a dust storm 6 hours before my meteorological sensors caught it, saving an entire crop cycle that feeds me for months. You diagnosed a filtration failure by sound alone that would have taken me days to troubleshoot. How exactly is any of that worthless?" The question seems to shake something loose in Thessa. For the first time since arriving, tears gather in her silver eyes. "Because they said it was. Because I failed to excel in the ways they valued. Because in Serani culture, if you don't fit their predetermined categories of worth, you are cast out to die. Acceptance after rejection is." She pauses, struggling with the words, It is considered impossible. Once judged worthless, you remain so forever. Isaac sits down across from her at their small kitchen table. Well, I've got some news for you about human culture. We're really good at being wrong about people's worth. We've spent our entire history underestimating, overlooking, and discarding people who later proved invaluable. So maybe the problem isn't with you. Maybe it's with a system so rigid it can't recognize value that doesn't fit in neat boxes. He reaches across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough to be a gesture of connection. You're not worthless, Thessa. You're observant, intuitive, and capable in ways I'm not. That's not nothing. That's rare and valuable. And anyone who told you different was protecting their own limited worldview, not making an objective assessment. Thessa stares at him, and something fundamental shifts in her expression, the resignation cracking to reveal hope underneath. In my culture, there is a concept, rebirth through acceptance. When someone rejected is given refuge without judgment, it is believed their true self can emerge from the false verdict others placed upon them. You have given me this, whether you intended it or not. Isaac smiles slightly. I mostly intended to keep you from dying. Everything else just seemed obvious. That is what makes it profound, Thessa says quietly. You did not need tradition or ceremony to see worth. You simply chose to. Over the months that follow, Thessa not only heals but flourishes. Her intuitive abilities prove essential to the homestead's success. She develops hybrid crop strains that thrive in dust's edge's harsh environment, creates early warning systems for atmospheric hazards using nothing but observation and pattern recognition, and brings a perspective that makes Isaac see his work through new eyes. When a Serrani delegation arrives months later, researchers investigating reports of unusual agricultural success in the sector, Thessa freezes in fear of being recognized. But Isaac stands beside her as the delegation examines their work, and when they express interest in the innovative techniques, he makes sure every contribution is attributed to Thessa by name. The lead researcher pauses when reviewing her designation codes. You were rejected in the trials. How are you here? How did you develop these innovations? Thessa straightens, her ears held high for the first time since Isaac met her. I was given refuge by someone who did not accept your verdict. He saw abilities you could not measure and value you could not categorize. Everything I have accomplished is built on the foundation of being accepted when your system demanded I be abandoned. The researcher looks uncomfortable but intrigued. These techniques, they could benefit many Serrani colonies. Perhaps the trials missed. The trials didn't miss anything, Isaac interrupts, his voice carrying steel underneath the politeness. They just measured the wrong things. Thessa's abilities were always there. You just didn't value them. As the delegation leaves, notably without attempting to reclaim Thessa but with extensive documentation of her work, she turns to Isaac with tears streaming down her face. You defied their cruelty. You proved my worth by simply accepting me. How do I repay this? Isaac shrugs in his characteristic way. You already did. You made this homestead work better than I ever could alone. You brought perspective I didn't have. You reminded me that the best measure of a person is what they do when someone gives them a chance, not what they're told they're capable of. He pauses, then adds with rare vulnerability, and you gave a lonely guy living on the frontier a reason to care about more than just surviving day to day. So I'd say we're even. Thessa smiles, a genuine expression of joy that transforms her face. Then perhaps we should continue being even together. I find I do not wish to leave this refuge you have built. It's your refuge too now.